When we come back, the other news, President Clinton in Rwanda today. He says the world should have done more to stop the genocide. President Clinton has arrived in South Africa. He's had a busy day. In Uganda, he and 7 African leaders signed a declaration supporting human rights and promising to work for an end to violence, especially to genocide. In other words, no more Rwandas. Mr. Clinton was in Rwanda this morning, and ABC's Sam Donaldson is with him.
It looked like just another arrival ceremony for President Clinton's African journey. But this was not just another African country. Mr. Clinton had come to Rwanda, scene of a terrible Holocaust that began in 1994 when militias of the then existing government began a murderous assault on an ethnic minority and its moderate allies. No one knows how many people died in this conflict. The working number is somewhere around 700,000 to 800,000. But what is known is that while the killing was going on, most nations, including the United States, did very little to try to stop it. In an extraordinary admission, that is exactly what Mr. Clinton acknowledged today at Kigali's airport.
We did not act quickly enough after the killing began. But all over the world, there were people like me sitting in offices day after day after day who did not fully appreciate the depth and the speed with which you were being engulfed by this unimaginable terror.
While the president met privately with survivors, workers arranged a memorial nearby, which he did not see, containing terrible artifacts of the genocide.
Killers armed mostly with machetes and clubs, the old and the sick, women and children alike, they were killed. Never again must we be shy in the face of the evidence.
But the evidence continues to pile up. Monday, in this village northwest of Kigali, 40 people were massacred, and more were killed elsewhere last night. For one survivor who had told her story,
one would wonder what kind of reconciliation they are looking for if people are still being killed.
After less than 3 hours on the ground, Mr. Clinton returned to Uganda for a conference with regional leaders, telling them, we must all do better. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, with the president in Uganda.
Several other pieces of news today. There is some new evidence today that the so-called AIDS cocktail, a combination of drugs to treat people with AIDS, is making a very significant difference. A study to be published in the New England Journal of Medicine finds that the death rate from AIDS and the rate of infection from diseases related to AIDS dropped more than 70% because of that drug cocktail. One interesting economic item today, the very low mortgage rates last month served to push up the sales of existing homes by 8.7%. That is nearly 5 million resales in a month. And from overseas, a news item to gladden the heart of every underdog, Volkswagen is trying to buy Rolls-Royce. Now, Rolls-Royce is owned by an English company, Vickers, which makes weapons as well, and so a group of Englishmen is trying to keep Rolls-Royce out of German hands. As a news story, it has potential. In just a moment, that truck on the highway carrying nuclear weapons. An ABC News investigation. In other important news today, those nuclear weapons out there on the nation's highways. Yes, you heard it correctly. The end of the Cold War notwithstanding, there are still 12,000 nuclear weapons in this country. They're held in 14 states, and from time to time, for one reason or another, they are moved from place to place. It is how they are moved around which is in question tonight. An ABC News investigation reveals a serious question of security. Here's ABC's James Walker.
It's time to pull off the road for a lunch break. At first glance, there's nothing unusual about those 3 tractor trailers. But take a second look. That driver has a walkie-talkie, and he's armed. And 40 yards away, these 3 men are watching the trailers so intently, they do not see us videotaping them. All these men are special agents with the Department of Energy. Their top secret assignment, transport nuclear weapons around the country.
We are the line that keeps those catastrophic weapons out of the hands of madmen and crazy people.
But what would happen if some crazy people did attack one of the trucks? We asked a government security expert what would be the odds of success.
At least 50-50.
50% of the time, terrorists would be successful and steal a nuclear weapon.
Yes.
And an ABC News investigation has discovered the odds of successfully protecting the nuclear weapons may be even worse. During training drills, even though the couriers know they will be attacked, the would-be terrorists defeat them and steal the cargo about 2/3 of the time. ABC News obtained this internal memo by a U.S. Army Special Forces unit that trained with the couriers in 1996. It concludes, because of bad management by the Department of Energy, the couriers did not have the right equipment and did not follow orders. Amazingly, the Energy Department's own Chief of Security noted, if a nuclear shipment is stolen, there is no plan on how to recapture it. And at this government parking lot in Tennessee, where the trucks are kept between assignments, we were told about another lapse in security.
Except for this no trespassing sign on this 8-foot-high fence, sources tell us that at night there is no guard assigned full-time, there are no alarms, anyone could climb over this fence, get right up to these trucks, and plant a tracking device or even a bomb.
Government officials claim the vehicles are inspected before they hit the road. Drivers say the search is not nearly thorough enough. Virtually every complaint about the courier program is met with the same answer.
We have logged about 91 million highway miles with this system with an excellent safety record.
Despite that record, many of the men who protect the bombs think the department is complacent.
Oklahoma City had never happened. The World Trade Center had never happened. A Tokyo subway had never happened, but it did.
There is, he says, a first time for everything. James Walker, ABC News, Albuquerque.
That is our report on World News Tonight. Later on Nightline, by the way, the maximum of maximum security prisons. I'm Peter Jennings. We hope you have a good evening and that you'll join us tomorrow. Good night.